Man, I'm a super nervous person, so I fight nerves real bad, but I've learned that that's not necessarily a bad thing. Like, if you can channel your nervous energy in the right direction and be super focused, and once you step in that show pen, for me, I'm pretty lucky, once I step in that gate, like, it goes away.
Really?
Like then I'm just focused and I'm thinking about getting my horse shown.
In the performance horse world, people who compete at an elite level don't usually climb to the top quickly. Like most achievements in life, it takes years of dedication, a strong work ethic, and the right mindset to stick with the process and grind it out. As a former college athlete, I know this to be true, and I'd add that through it all, you have to genuinely love what you're doing. My passion for horses and my competitive nature makes me hungry for answers. So I've set out to discover the psychology behind success stories living the Western lifestyle, to expand my awareness and apply what I've learned in my own life. This journey of discovery will be uncomfortable for me, but the reward will be unmeasurable. I'm Mike Roberts, and this is the Converse Cowboy. Presented by Kerry Kelly Bits and Spurs and Schaefer Outfitter. On this episode, we continue the tour leaving the Sixes, heading further west to Earth, Texas, feedlot capital of the world, to sit down with Tripp Townsend. Tripp and I discuss cowboy life, performance horses, and mindset in the arena. He has an interesting story and one that most everyone can relate to in some way. You'll want to listen to this one to the end.
All right, Tripp, we're going to roll into it, man. Again, it's just a conversation, so
Okay.
we're just going to talk.
I'll try not to freak out.
No, it's all good. You'll forget those things are even there. But no, man, it's really cool. I'm glad you sat down, Tripp Townsend. I can remember, like, the first time I was in Fort Worth for the stock show, seeing you show. I don't know if you had a horse in that sale or not, but from that time on, I remembered the name Tripp Townsend. When I'd walk through an arena, I'd hear that your name be called, like, next up to be show, to go show, and I'd always pay attention. There was something about it. And there's people that are in the show world that have that, and they just catch your attention, and you're definitely one of them. And on top of that, anytime me or any of my buddies would see you in the alleyways, it was just a very genuine interaction, and so.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, you bet. And so when I had the opportunity to sit down with you, I was like, heck yeah, I'm gonna jump on this. So I'm curious, and I want to hear your story and be able to share your story as where you came from and to where you're at now, and everything in between. We're here for an hour, so we're not going to be able to capture it all, but I'd like to hit most of the highlights if we can. So tell me this, so I know just from our conversation last night, you kind of moved around all over. Can you talk about how you ended up here in Earth, Texas?
So I was born here and then left before I started school and lived, lived on different ranches in New Mexico, Colorado. Ended up on a big, rough cowboy kind of ranch in Colorado. I loved it. I was, 13, 14, 15, right in there those years. Got off school bus one day and my dad has the horses loaded, and I said, "What's up?" He said, "We're moving to Earth, Texas." And I was like, "Why would we move to Earth, Texas?" And it's where my grandparents were from on my mother's side. And he said, "I'm tired of working for other people, and we're gonna go do something for ourselves." And I was like, "Okay, but there's got to be somewhere better than Earth to go." Anyway, we ended up back down here, and shoot, 33 years later, here I still am, still here.
Yeah.
Still just trying to scratch out a living, but anyway, it's, shoot, I guess I wouldn't change much. It's been pretty good.
Yeah. So for those that don't know, Earth, Texas is about, tell me if I'm wrong, about 30 minutes from the border, from the New Mexico border?
Yes, sir.
So you're pretty far west. So you're running a feed yard out here, like that's the day job, and then you do ranch horse competitions, NRCHA stuff, your team roping. I'm curious to know, so how did the feed yard stuff come about as a business for you?
Just started out taking care of wheat cattle. And taking care of wheat cattle is all fine and good during wheat season, but when the wheat runs out, you got to have something to do. And so kind of just started out working at some feed yards, you know. I'd take care of wheat cattle and work at a feed yard, and one thing led to another, and me and another guy were working at a feed yard together, and we decided to try to just start our own little deal, you know. And so it's just grown from there. We started out just taking care of customer cattle. You know, we were 100% dependent upon someone sending us some cattle. But now we've kind of grown to where between myself and my partners, we're able to kind of be our own customers and just kind of taking care of our own cattle and doing our own deal. And the feed yard is just a fit. It fits into what we do. You know, we start cattle on wheat, bring them feed yard, grow them, sell them, just start over any way. I don't know if that answered your question, but it's kind of.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it is, you know. I mean, that's the truth. How does showing in the arena? I know you're an advocate of using those show horses for a day, you know, your day-to-day job. So can you talk about the benefits of having the feed yard and being able to use those horses every single day?
I think it works both ways. So I don't have the opportunity to do what a lot of guys do. I don't have an indoor barn, and I don't have time to go cut and go down the fence and rain in an indoor barn every day, which that's kind of an advantage. So I have to kind of turn it around and say, okay, well, the one advantage I do have is I can ride that horse and do my work on him every day. So, you know, I'm getting to use him, and he learns to get tired. You know, he learns what it is to work for a living, and then just every opportunity I get, well, then I try to go to the arena and catch up a little bit, so to speak.
So you've done quite a bit in the show pen, and tell me if I get any of this wrong. I don't know if I saw this, but I've heard many people say it, that you've got the most money earned in the RHAA.
In the RHA, I think that's correct.
Just won the limited Snaffle bit championship last year in Fort Worth, and then you've got 3 world championships for ranch rodeos.
Yes, sir. Yep.
How did all that even come about? Like, you know, you're doing the feed yard thing, I'm assuming, and then the show stuff came. Can you talk to me about how you even got introduced to that and got started?
You bet. So, kind of same story on both. Heard about a ranch rodeo in Amarillo, Texas. I'm like, man, I gotta go watch that. So, go watch ranch rodeo in
What year would that have been in?
Man, like 2001. So, and they were in their 3rd or 4th year by then, but first time I'd seen it. Went to Amarillo, watched ranch rodeo, made the hair stand up on the back of my neck. I mean, you know, I was just like, man, I got to do this. So came home, talked to my guys about it, you know, and they're all in. So for a year, that's all we talk about is, man, how, you know, we got to get us a ranch rodeo team put together. And we did. Went to one ranch rodeo at Pampa, Texas, and won it. Qualified for our first appearance at the finals there at the WRCA. And so then, kind of same deal with the ranch horse deal. I'm at the ranch rodeo finals, and they have a ranch horse contest, and I get to watch Bill Smith in the work-off. And same deal, like, man, I couldn't stand it. I was like, man, I got to try that, you know. So came home and started. Sure, all my horses were sick of me, but went to training on all my horses, you know, just doing my job, just trying to turn around and learn to stop and just.
How old were you?
Oh, in 2002, I was in my 20s, late 20s, something like that. And anyway, it just fit me. I just wanted to be a part of that. I thought, man, that's what we do every day, and now we get to go to town and do it for fun, you know, and show. And so one thing's kind of led to another, and we've just kept doing it.
So, as with anything, you know, when you first start something, I'm sure there's frustrations, questions that you have that come up. Was there somebody that you reached out to try to get answers, or were you trying to figure everything out on your own?
No, I've always watched others, and then I wasn't scared to ask questions. So first person I asked questions was Bill Smith. You know, Bill was the king of the ranch horse deal. He he was just so smooth, and his horses were so quiet and good. And I remember sitting on the fence at a ranch rodeo / ranch horse contest in Tucumcari, New Mexico. And I asked Bill Smith, I was like, what about bridling up these horses? And Bill was like, he said, I don't know, what about it? And I said, well, looks like we're gonna have to do it, and we were kind of against it, teaching the horse to bridle up and collect up. We were old school, but anyway, I've always watched other people and asked questions.
Yeah, I think that's a very that is a unique quality. I think some people may be scared to ask questions at certain times, or may think people would judge them because they don't have the answer and they want to act like they have the answer. But I'm a lot the same way. I'm just curious by nature, and so I think people learn differently, whether you see it or whether you hear it. I want to be able to ask the question, talk about it, go do it, and then come back and ask more questions as they come up.
That's me exactly. I mean, I still do it today.
Yeah.
Right before the Snaffle bet Futurity, I stopped at Ben Ballas' house, and we went down the fence, and Ben was like, do you know that when you go buy a cow down the fence, you're looking off in the stars for a second? And I was like, no. He's like, well, you are. And just I think you have to be open to ask questions and receive I figured out a long time ago, I'm not smart enough to figure it out on my own. I got to have a little help.
Well, I don't think it's that necessarily. I think it's we don't know what we don't know. You know what I mean?
That's true.
And especially starting something new, I mean, how are you supposed to be aware of it unless you see somebody else do it? Or, I mean, if you can figure some things out on your own, it just may take you a lot longer than just going and asking somebody who's already done it.
Yes, sir. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I'd have my wife video me, and you can figure a lot of stuff out watching yourself. You don't realize what you're doing. I used to come in to do a reining pattern, and man, I thought I was going fast. I thought I had my hat brim turned back. I was going so fast, and you watch it on the video, and you're like, man, what are you doing? You're just barely loping.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I read a quote that I think it was in the Western Horseman that you said, you enjoy the process of buying a yearling, training as a 2-year-old, 3-year-old, and then wherever it may go, whether you sell it or going to show it. Can you talk about that a little bit?
I mean, that nailed it. I enjoy it. I love to go buy them. I like to go pick them out, and I've made plenty of mistakes, but I've been lucky a few times also. But I love to go pick the colt out, buy him, bring him home. You're excited to ride him. You can't wait to get on him. You get him going a little bit, and then you're using him. And maybe you're riding pins on him, and then the next thing you know, you're taking him outside, and you're starting to rope a few outside, and then you go to the arena and you start working a cow on him and loping circles, and before you know it, you're like, well, it's time to go show him, see where we're at. And it's just been a lot of fun to do the start from finish thing with the horse.
Yeah, and speaking of buying those young horses, we were talking about it earlier. Specific bloodlines, what you're drawn to and why.
I've always been drawn to cutting and cow horse bloodlines. My dad showed a few cutting horses. I showed a few cutting horses when I was really young, and so I've just had a natural draw to those. There's something special about being on a horse that's just naturally cowy.
Specifically, can you talk about what you like? Because you have 4 brothers of the same bloodline out here.
So I kind of stumbled on the Pepsids. Pepsid's a son of Pep de Boone's Mall that the Tongue River owns, and I got to buy my first one there, and he turned out to be pretty special, and so I've just kind of stayed after that bloodline, and like you said, I've actually ended up with 4 full brothers.
Yeah.
And they've all been pretty special.
Yeah. What is it? There's a number of different stud choices out there. There's a number of different mare lines that you can go pick from. What is it about Pepsi that you really like?
They just have a little sting to them. They really won't stop. They're pretty good on a cow. Just got a little something extra, seems like.
Something that I'm really interested in. So the cowboy community is a very tight-knit group, especially out here in West Texas, right? So like TJ Roberts with Tongue River and Dusty Burson and at the Sixes, and I know you are very competitive at what you do. You're very good at what you do. Everybody works their ass off. Everybody's working hard. What is it that may set one guy apart from another in the show arena?
Man, that's a good question. I don't know if I know how to answer that. But you're right. There's just some people that have a little something extra, and I don't really know what that is or how you get it. I think you're born with it. You either kind of are or you aren't. And I don't know where I fit on that scale, but you just kind of have it or you don't, I think.
Yeah. You talking about work ethic?
Well, maybe not work ethic. Maybe just that ability to get your horse shown and kind of look good doing it, if that doesn't sound too bad. There's a lot of guys that can train a horse, but maybe can't get him shown.
Yeah.
And
do you think that comes back to like mindset? I know preparation has a tremendous amount to do with that. So the hours and days and years you spend in that pen, but at some point it's going to come down to the rider. How much do you focus on mindset, either during practice, like when you're working cows, or before a show? You doing any type of visualization, like picturing a run before you go in?
I do a little bit of all of that. Just at home, there's days I'm like, okay, so today I'm just going to kind of, not necessarily run an exact pattern, but I'm going to see where I'm at today. I'm not going to train on him. I'm going to try to show him today. And just here at the house, and see what pops up, and what's wrong. And then when I get to the show, man, I'm a super nervous person. So I fight nerves real bad, but I've learned that that's not necessarily a bad thing. Like, if you can channel your nervous energy in the right direction and be super focused, and once you step in that show pen, for me, I'm pretty lucky. Once I step in that gate, like, it goes away.
Really?
Like then I'm just focused and I'm thinking about getting my horse shown. But until I step in that gate, I'm a nervous wreck sometimes. But
so how do you do that? How do you channel that nervous energy?
Man, I don't know. I breathe, I visualize, all of those things. Tell yourself, hey, I can do this. Don't let the negative get in the way, because it does. If you allow those negative thoughts to get in there, they affect you when you show. So try to get rid of those. Try to take Bill Smith one time. I keep going back to Bill Smith, but I was fixing to ride in a pen at Abilene at the NRCHA finals, and I guess he could tell I was a nervous wreck, and he goes, hey man, breathe. And I just kind of looked at him, grinned. He's like, no, breathe. And so, like, he actually made me right there take some deep breaths, and I still do it to this day. I make myself breathe a little bit before I go in.
That's sage advice, and there's a study, I don't know where I saw it at, but it's scientifically proven. If you take 6 deep breaths, lowers blood pressure, stress goes down, everything.
Really?
Kind of relax a little bit.
Yeah, it works.
But I think everybody struggles with that at some point, and may not be a struggle, but it's something that we have to deal with, whether in the performance world or whether a situation comes up in life that we may get nervous about, or it may be new. I don't know if, like, for me, I don't know if it's ego. I don't know, like, why the nerves are there, because you want to do so good and by having a competitive nature. But for me, I want, like, a trigger. Like, when I feel that, it's like I become aware of it, and then I try to find the gratitude. I'm like, what can I be grateful for? Well, I'm grateful that I'm at a show, or that I get to do this. Like, all I can control is what I did in the past to prepare for that moment, and what's going on when I ride in. Like, I can't control anything else. And so for me, that kind of helps me calm those nerves, or channel those nerves in a positive direction.
Yeah, I agree completely. Yeah. I have the same thoughts. I'm like, yeah, I'm here. I want to win, but winning's not everything. And if I don't win, my wife's not gonna love me any less, and you know, my life's not like it's gonna be over if I don't win.
That's it.
And I just think to myself, man, just go in here and try to get your horse shown and don't fall off, or you know,
Yeah.
just be thankful for whatever happens, you know.
That's it.
And most of the time that I have actually won something pretty big, I had that mindset. Like at Snaffle Bet this year, that was my first time to showing that in front of that many people.
Yeah.
I wasn't thinking, boy, sure hope I win this, you know. I was
Yeah.
it just kind of fell in place, you know.
Yeah, it kind of takes that pressure off when you release that, what I would call an attachment. You know, you're attached to the success, you're attached to an outcome or a result. Let that go and just go have fun.
I agree 100%.
And I don't mean to make it sound simplistic, but really, if you zoom out 30,000 feet and you look back down, most of the stuff we create in our head is just a story that's just that. We created this worry, we created this story, you know.
No, you're exactly right, and I'm pretty bad about it.
Hell, we all are, but I think the key is just being aware of it,
Yeah.
you know, and then just observing it. You know, not really judging ourselves for feeling those things, but just be aware of it.
Being aware of
Try to
it.
go a different route.
Yes, sir. Yep.
You know? I hesitate to say horse trainer. I don't know what you identify as, but you're very much a horse trainer in my eyes. I'm curious to know how do you know when you've gotten in, like when you've really tapped into a horse's mind?
Well, I don't really consider myself a horse trainer. I like horses and I work at it and I try to train a few, but man, there's guys out there that are so much more talented than I am. But I don't really know how to say that I get in their mind, but I've felt it. I remember the first time I ever felt it. I was at a show in Clayton, New Mexico, a long time ago, just a little podunk ranch horse show. And I rode this horse, and I rode him, and I rode, just killing time more than anything. I just sat on him, you know, and I rode him, and all of a sudden I just felt something in him. And you know, he was relaxed, he was willing, and he was ready to go. And I was just like, wow, you know, and I didn't do anything special. I just spent some time with him. I just stayed on him, and I wasn't pulling and spurring, and I was just easing through and doing little bitty simple things, and I won that show that day, and that kind of stuck with me. You know, I'm like, man, you don't just go get on a horse and lope him around for 10 minutes and ride in there and think you're gonna win. Mm-hmm. Like you gotta put the time in with the horse, and he's got to trust you.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big deal for me is. I've never done very well when the horse was a little scared of me, but when the horse was trusting me and was willing, it seemed like we got along pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, I think back, we were talking about James Payne earlier, and the first time I went and rode with him, he was like, well, ride your horse around, warm her up, and then go work a cow. And I kind of knew it was a loaded statement, but I was like, all right. And so I just loped her around a couple of times and backed her up and pulled on her and went to cut a cow. And he's like, if you do that in a show pen, she's going to buck and be fresh and all this. And I was like, God dang it, James, I knew it.
You set me up.
You set me up. But I was like, okay, but that's a good point. So what do I need to do? And the way he explained it was just what you just said. You know, just camp out on them. And I mean, he went into detail as to how he would get one ready or how he would want one to get ready, you know. But yeah, I'm so curious because, and it's hard, and everybody that asks, it's hard for folks to answer that because you said it. You said you felt it. Mm-hmm. It's a feeling, mm-hmm. you know, and sometimes that's hard to articulate or hard to convey in words.
Yes, sir.
You know?
Yeah.
As with most, I guess, things with horses, even you know, any trainer that you sit down with, they can tell you, some of the good ones can tell you what they do until you go feel it yourself. You know, it doesn't really register, at least for me anyway. I want to talk about, I think it's important because no matter how much success you have, success is not linear. You don't say, I only go in Snaffle Bet and you go in Snaffle Bet. Maybe for Tripp Townsend, but other people, it's not like that. So I know your first year, you show up to the Snaffle Bet. You did not win the Snaffle Bet the first year, but the second year you did. So And I just use that as an example. I'd like to hear from you maybe some challenges that you've had to overcome to get to where you're at today, to get to the reputation that Tripp Townsend has today as a horseman.
I didn't expect anything. I wasn't looking for glory or fame, or I just enjoyed the horse. I had a competitive nature. I wanted to compete. Got my butt kicked a whole lot. Just made you want to come home and try harder. And I don't know. It's just something I've always wanted to do. You know, I went to the Snaffle bit the first year, and I knew I didn't have a good enough horse. But it was the first year for it to be in Fort Worth, and I kind of fooled myself. I was like, well, maybe he's good enough, you know. And so I took him down there, and sure enough, he wasn't. And so that just made me want to try harder. But once again, I had no big expectations. I was like, well, I think I got a little better horse this year. I'm gonna go back down there and try it one more time, and hope I don't embarrass myself as bad as I did last year. But and it just kind of worked out. I've never been one to set goals and say, okay, I'm going the Snaffle bit and I'm gonna try to win the limited open. I just want to go see where I measure up, kind of see where my horse is at, and see how we compare to everyone else. And man, there was so many horses down there last year that were capable of beating me. You got to be a little bit lucky, and it just kind of worked out for me. I drew a great cow in the finals, and it just worked, you know. I didn't know it was going to work. It just did.
Yeah.
No one was more surprised than me, you know. So, and man, I don't know, that makes it even more special, kind of. You're like, wow, man, we just had a pretty good run, you know. And so, I don't know, may not ever do it again, but we did it once.
What was it about that first year, though, that made you, because that takes a special mindset. A lot of people would get down about it, you know, or get discouraged and may not want to do it again.
So I knew my horse, and I knew he just wasn't as capable as some horses I'd had prior to him. So I thought to myself, I was like, man, you know, that horse I had 2 years ago, now he could have done this deal. And so I guess I was fortunate enough I'd shown enough in other places that I knew that horse didn't even really measure up in the Ranch Horse Association, you know. So I was like, well, I just got to go home and keep riding until that special horse comes along. It's just luck, I guess you'd say, that it was the very next year that he came along. But
yeah. And talk about him a little bit. What is his registered name?
he is TRR Lucky Brazos.
Lucky Brazos. And,
Yes,
and
sir.
around here he's known as Hip Town,
Hip
right?
Town, yes, sir.
I was fortunate enough I got to ride him today, just cool and laid back and easy going, you know. Can you talk about what it was like to train him, you know, going into that year, you know, his 3-year-old year all the way up to when you showed him?
So he was so laid back that it was almost a detriment against him, you know, like I kept wondering if he quite had enough to him, you know, like was he going to be able to step it up? And
Yeah.
But he was just so easy and everything. He was so willing and just a pretty kind horse, and he wanted to stop. And I've always told people, man, if a horse wants to stop, I can usually get along with them. And he was just a natural stopper, just everything he did. So we just kind of kept plugging along, and I didn't even realize how special he was till we got there, I guess. You know, I still had my doubts, but man, he's laid back, so when you get to the show pen, you can mash on the gas a little.
Yeah.
And for me, that's kind of the horse I need to. I'm pretty nervous anyway, so I need a horse that's pretty laid back, and then when I get in there and mash on the gas a little and he responds, well, it's a pretty cool feeling.
Yeah. You hear about those horses, you hear the stories about those horses that they may be lazy, borderline lazy in the practice pen, but then when the lights come on and they walk into the Will Rogers or, you know, anywhere in Fort Worth, and they just turn into a different horse. Would
Yes,
you
sir.
say that was him?
Man, that's a little bit him. Like he was pretty laid back there too, you know, but but he's not so laid back that you can't call on him a little. When you call on him, he'll respond.
I got you.
Yeah.
What are your plans for him?
We just want to keep showing him, man. We're just going to do everything on him. We're going to ranch rodeo on him. We're going to team rope on him. We're going to take him to some NRCHA shows, some AQHA versatility, just anywhere that's close and we can make. We're just going to stay after him.
Yeah. Well, I look forward to seeing what he and you both do, you know, in y'all's future together. Tell me about, and I don't know if you want to get into this or not, but I think it would benefit a lot of people that may be going through something like this, you know, at an early age. You lost your father, you know, due to a horse, and you told us about it last night. But if you're willing, I'd love to have you share that.
Sure. Man, my dad was kind of my hero looking back. He could train a cutting horse, and just a cowboy that didn't have, he didn't have YouTube videos, and, you know, you couldn't drive somewhere and get help, and you couldn't, all the things we'd video and all that, and he could train a cutting horse. We went to the little, nothing big time, but we went to the Panhandle Cutting Horse Association in Amarillo, and he was competitive, you know. And looking back at that, I'm like, wow, I still can't do that, you know, like I don't know how he did it, but I looked up to him, and he helped me in everything I did, and then all of a sudden he's gone, you know, and makes you appreciate a lot of different things about life, you know, and you understand how fragile life is and how quickly it can be gone. And it was tough, but we made it through, and I look back now, and I still look to him as an example.
Mm-hmm. And I asked you this last night. You know, it was due to a horse injury, and I wondered, like, did you frown upon horses, or did you have a negative outlook towards horses for any reason?
I never did. I never did. I guess we all know in the horse deal, just freak things happen sometimes, and it never changed my outlook on horses.
Yeah. Do you think that by that happening, did you grow up faster from that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, a little bit. I had to, you know, there's nobody to call, you know, say, hey, Dad, what about this?
Yeah.
You know, what about that? But yeah, I kind of had to grow up and learn to take care of myself a little bit.
Yeah. Another thing you said yesterday was, you know, y'all were talking about going to a ranch rodeo in Colorado. You're going to show, turn right around and come back and be at work the next day. Man, that inspired me more than you know. It's like, I hear these people making excuses why they can't do things, and hell, I'm guilty of it at times. I'll make an excuse of why I can't do something, you know, but how did you get that, Tripp? Like, it's like a no excuses mindset, you know? You said you work hard, you play hard.
I guess got it growing up, you know?
Yeah.
My dad wasn't a slave driver, but we worked, you know?
Yeah.
And same deal, if you want to go play and you want to go rope or you want to go to the cutting, you got to get your work done, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And just started at an early age. I remember when I was in high school playing football, 2-a-days, and got done with 2-a-days, and all the guys were talking about how they were going to go take a nap and get ready to come back that afternoon. So I thought, yeah, I'm going to do that too. Went home, took a shower, laid down on the couch. Daddy knocks on the door, says, hey, we got a semi-load of hay to unload, come on. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And so I felt sorry for myself the whole time I was doing that, you know. But it puts a little, man, I wouldn't change it for nothing, you know. It puts a little drive in you, and you're like, you know what, I can do that. I can unload a semi-load of hay and still go to football practice that afternoon. And anyway, that's part of where it comes from.
Yeah, and doing that, it kind of builds confidence in a way, you know, just knowing that you're doing something that most folks aren't doing. Not that you're playing a comparison game, but like I wake up early every single morning around 4:30, something like that. I don't know, it's like a mental thing. You just kind of know you're up before most people.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Yes, sir.
But the other side to that is, you know, we live in this world of do, work hard, and I get it. Like, yes, we do need to work hard, but at the same time, you got to play. You know what I mean? And so you do work hard so you can play. And so I think that's a good balance. Like for me, it took me a long time to realize it because I was always just hammered down. But then whenever I can take a step back, it allows me to reflect. I can kind of recalibrate, and be able to do something I love. And so for you, I know you said play is a big deal, team roping, working cow horse shows, things like that. And when I asked you this morning, I said, what do you do for vacation? Your answer was you go to horse shows.
Go to a horse show or roping or rodeo or something, yes sir.
Yeah. So I think that's cool. So you have a son who won the World's Greatest Youth this year. Can you talk a little bit about Trail and kind of his path into the working cow world?
So Trail is the reason that we go to NRCHA shows. So, he started out, I think you saw him when he was 10 years old, at Fort Worth, and he showed the horse and brought the house down, got a standing ovation. I told him then, and he didn't understand. I was like, man, you may never receive that much applause the rest of your life. I was like, that was cool.
It was cool, and it made the hair on my arms, all of my body stand up, man. It was just a 10-year-old kid in there showing this ranch gelding, and, brought a good, I think he was the top selling horse that year, and then just the way he showed that horse was cool at that age. So.
Yes, sir. So then after that, he wasn't sure how into it he was or wasn't, but then he started showing RHA, and he was doing pretty good, but he wasn't happy with that. Like, he wanted more, and I kind of didn't. I was like, man, this is enough, We ranch rodeo, we show ranch horse, we team rope, but he wanted more, so he asked me, he's like, will you take me to a NRCHA show? And I was like, man, I got to work. If you can talk your mom into taking you, we'll go. Well, he did, and she took him. And he went to a show at Amarillo, just Panhandle Rain Cow Horse show or something, and he didn't do very good, but Jay McLaughlin was there, and when he rode out, Jay said, hey, I like your gray horse, and he was hooked. So he come home, and he's like, man, he was just pushing me. We got to do this, we got to do that, we got to. He was wanting to send horses off to get them trained and stuff. And I was like, man, we got a pretty good horse. Let's just keep trying him. And I said, we'll go get a little help here and there. And so anyway, that's how we have ended up. And I'm easily intimidated. I am. I remember, I was very comfortable at an RHA show. But man, you pull up to Fort Worth, and there's Boyd Rice and Todd Bergen and Todd Crawford, and you're like, man, I got no business being here. I'm out of my league. And Trill just wasn't that easily intimidated. He's like, no, come on. I remember going to the practice pen. I'm like, man, I got to go find an arena nobody's in. There's too many people in this one for me to ride around in. But anyway, so he stayed after it, and the first year they had the Youth World's Greatest, he made the finals, but he come in kind of last, and he went for broke, and I told him to. I was like, man, you got nothing to lose, go for it. And it kind of backfired. So this year he comes in tied for the lead, and I'm like, man, don't let up now, And so he went for it again this year, and it worked this time.
It worked out.
Yeah.
That's cool, man. That's really cool. I'm glad to see the path that he's on. But I find it interesting to hear Tripp Townsend say you ride in and you're intimidated by these other people, because in my mind Tripp Townsend's like up here, And
no,
so
not at all.
I think that's what I learned from that is like everybody somewhat has this imposter syndrome, if that's even the right term. But no matter what level you get to, there's always somebody else that's either better than you, or you in your mind you may think is better than you, somebody to look up to. So being able to control those thoughts, I think, is key. I wanted to know about, this is just more of a trivial question. We were just talking a little bit about spurs, but people like to know, listeners want to know, like bits that you use, saddles you ride. Can you talk a little bit about what you're using most?
Right now I ride Tad Sanders saddles. I like Tad. We're friends. I like his saddles. They just work for me. There's an older gentleman that just lives south of here named Ed Fairby, and he was an old horse trainer, and didn't even know until he was getting older that he was a bit and spur maker, but man, he's pretty handy. I can take him a picture of a bit, or I can go down there and tell him what I've got in mind, and he'll make me one. And
Really?
Just a great old man. You know, he like Trell used his bit at the World's Greatest this year, and you know, it's just, I don't know, it's kind of cool to have a relationship with the people that you're using their stuff.
With making your stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. One thing I like to know is, especially for you, I know you this morning you said you were up here feeding about 4 o'clock. So I want to know like your routine, you know, from the minute you wake up to the time you go to bed.
Man, I've done this for so long, I've got to get up and go. Like, I don't spend any time in the house. When I get up in the morning, I go. And I don't get up every morning at 4 o'clock. Keith, that works for me, does. But I usually, you know, unless there's something special going on, we're shipping or doing something big, well, then I come in at 4. But I usually get here at 5 o'clock. We feed. It's kind of a joke amongst ourselves. If you don't have the feeding done before daylight, well, you're behind.
Slacking.
You know? Yeah, you're slacking. So we try to have all the feeding done by then, and then we catch horses, and depends on how busy we are. We might go work horses in the round pen, or we might go straight to work. And we normally ride pens first, ride pens, doctor, and then spend the rest of the day outside roping and doctoring cattle, and then hopefully get back here in time to ride a couple horses and maybe rope or do something like that.
Yeah. You coffee drinker? You drinking coffee in the morning? No.
Only one in my family. My dad loved it. My mom, my wife loves it. My kids do.
Yeah.
I can't stand the stuff. I don't even like the smell of it.
I gotcha. I'm gonna wrap it up, but I do want to know, you know, the business side of what you're doing. And I think I touched on it a little bit earlier, but how long before you really got comfortable and confident in what you're doing with the feed yard stuff? And you know, how did that even come about?
Man, it's been a long process. I started out, you know, like I said, just begging customers to send me cattle. And then we've gradually started buying more and more of our own cattle, and I got a new partner, and that helped. You know, I've got a partner named Clint Anderson that partners with me on a lot of cattle. Pretty much anything I want to buy, I can pick up the phone and say, "Hey, Clint, what about these cattle?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'll buy them." You know,
nice.
And it's very stressful deal, really. I mean, it's we're probably the only people dumb enough to do this, because you have to have a lot of money, borrow a lot of money to make a small amount, and man, you have to watch the board. You have to know when to hedge, and it's you got to try to keep your cattle alive, and then you got the weather to deal with, and either it doesn't rain or it comes a blizzard, or it's a very high stress deal. But I don't know, I've just fell into it and got accustomed to it, and I still worry. I still let things get to me a little bit, but not as bad as I used to. And I don't know, things are smoother now than they've probably ever been. And just, you were talking about surrounding yourself with good people. I got 2 great partners. They just pretty much anything I want to do, they're good with it, and they buy a lot of cattle themselves and keep us busy, and it allows us time to go play, like we were talking about.
Yeah. So just the experience and time in the saddle, no pun intended. So no matter what you do, and no matter how much you love it, you know, stuff's going to come up that's out of your control, or stuff's going to test you. And so I think it's very important to really know why you do what you do and really have a purpose behind it. And I'm just curious as to what your why is. You know, we were talking earlier, and you said you knew from a very early age that you were going to be a cowboy in some capacity. You
know, I never knew I was going to be in the feedlot business. Like I said, I just want to be a cowboy. And if it didn't involve horses and cattle and a rope, I wasn't interested, you know. And so, and then you throw in getting married and having kids and having to provide for your family, and you just did whatever it took to take care of them, you know, and one thing led to another, and I never was just quite satisfied with working for someone. I wanted to do more of my own deal, and one thing led to another. I've had a lot of help along the way. People have helped me, you know, get going, and here we are. We've ended up with a feed yard and wheat cattle, and man, I can see myself going down a lot of different roads. You know, I would have loved to have just been a ranch cowboy, you know, but I have no regrets. It's been a lot of fun. We've worked hard, but at the same time, it's allowed us to do a lot of things. You know, I didn't have to go ask the boss if I could go to a horse show or ranch rodeo. I had to take care of my business and know that everything was taken care of before I went.
Yeah.
And so you answer to someone for everything, and then just your why. I mean, I'm a Christian man, and I believe that my success in this world doesn't affect the big scheme of things. You know, we all want to be somewhat successful and do good, but that in the big scheme of things, that's not what's important.
I agree, and on the work side of it, Kerry Kelly said, you know, running your own business, you have the freedom to really do whatever you want, and it allows you to be able to work half a day. You just pick which 12 hours you want to work.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
I
Yeah.
never heard it said like that,
That's
but I
right.
liked it.
Yeah.
So if you didn't ranch, what do you think you'd be doing? Or let me rephrase that. Like, if you had enough money to never have to step foot in this feed yard again, let's say $100 million, what does Tripp Townsend do tomorrow?
Tripp Townsend would own a big, cool ranch somewhere. It would have some rough country.
What would the location be? Would you
I
be
don't
in
know.
Texas, or-
I'd have to scout around Texas, New Mexico, Colorado. I'm familiar with those places, you know. But we would have we wouldn't run black cows. We would have some cool cows of some kind, and I would have a good crew, and you know, I just want guys that like the same things I like. I'd want guys that like horses and want to rope and that's what Tripp would do if I didn't have to come right here to this feed yard every day.
Yeah, you'd be at every ranch rodeo, every World Series jackpot.
Maybe, you know, we'd go to the ones we wanted to,
Yeah.
but man, if I had a big old cool ranch, we might spend more time just right there.
Yeah, I got you. Well, cool. Well, one last question for you, and if you've seen the show, you know what it is. You know, this show is called the Converse Cowboy, and everybody's definition of what a cowboy is a little bit different, but I'm curious to know what is Tripp Townsend's definition of a cowboy?
So I wish I could narrow it down and make it real short, but to me, a cowboy is about half daredevil. It's all grit, no quit. Has respect for God and country, takes your hat off for women, stand up for the flag. You don't have to be the world's greatest hand or horseman or anything to be a cowboy. It's a state of mind. It's American dream, man, to be a cowboy.
Yeah, being a cowboy is cool. That's a cool answer. Tripp, I'm going to wrap it up. We've already taken enough of your time, but I'm very grateful. I really want you to know that genuinely, I'm very grateful for your time, not only today, but last night at dinner, and then allowing us to come wreck your world while you were trying to doctor cattle and get a job done and let us do our thing. So I'm very, very appreciative of it. And I look forward to seeing you in the show pen, you know, with the 4-year-old you got now, and then anything else that you may have coming up in the future. So.
Well, thanks for coming. Glad you saddled up and went with us.
Yeah, you bet. We'll have to do it. Like I said earlier, we're going to come back to Earth, Texas, probably to do a little something with trails. So
You bet.
we'll hit him up on the next tour.
Okay.
All right, man.
All right.
There's been a consistent theme with everyone I've sat down with so far on this journey. Work ethic, focused intent, and daily routines with consistency over a long period of time. I can't wait to share what we learned on the next stop with TJ Roberts at the Tongue River Ranch. Until next time, stay grateful and be kind.